Hello and welcome to PQ Prime. A very good morning to all the viewers. Clearly, a good day of trade in terms of where markets go, taking cues from the global markets with regards to where the debt ceiling has been passed as well. So that is positive overall. 18,500 is what we're tracking on Nifty 50. Minor gains coming in there, but the trend seems to be quite positive. Bank Nifty as well. Gains of around 0.3% near the 43,900 mark. A lot of stock specific action is what we are witnessing in today's session. Joining us on the show to discuss more is Saurabh Jain, Equity Head Research at SMC Global. Saurabh, good morning and welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning, here.
Saurabh, let's start with the auto companies. They have been in focus on the back of the May auto sales numbers that have come in. What's the trend indicating to you if you have to talk about the passenger vehicle, two-wheeler, tractor, as well as the CV segment? And overall, if you see in terms of, apart from the sector as a whole, which will be your top picks?
I think if you see the whole of the auto sector, I think the passenger vehicle segment was doing extremely well for the last few quarters. There were slew of new launches. Even the SUV segment was doing quite well. And now with the commercial vehicle picking up and the latest data indicating that the two-wheeler segment is also getting picked up, I think the sector is looking good. Beside that, I think the EV market may get impacted because of the take back some intervention by the government in terms of taking back the subsidies. Overall, if you look at the automobile sector, I think Eicher Motor, Mahindra, and some of the auto ancillaries are extremely doing well. I think this sector is poised to do well in the next 2-3 quarters, and I think it should be must in your portfolio.
Right, so that's with regards to where the auto space as a whole goes. Saurabh, moving on to the metal space overall. If you see in terms of metals, they seem to be pretty much in a good shape, especially names like a Hindalco, Tata Steel, as well as a JSW Steel. What's your view on metals? Because that's something which has a high dependence with regards to what happens in China, globally, as well as with the way the dollar index moves.
I think since last years we are continuously witnessing the dropping of the metal, all the metal prices. This sector usually usually matches with what happens in the global economic world. I mean, this time around the variables are not looking great. I mean, we are talking about the recession in the global economy. U.S. Economy may get deep into the recession. Europe is not doing well. China is not picking up well as was expected. I think the expectation was that the China may do well by the end of September 2023, but I think that expectations are getting further delayed. Though I think domestic market is still there is still bias in the domestic market because of the government commitment on the capital expenditure side. I think the government outdo the expend on the capital expenditure side last year also, and they are front loading this year too. Private capex is also coming up well. So I think you have to bet on the metal. If you want to bet on the metal sectors, you have to have in terms of uh, a good capacity to take volatility. I mean, metal prices can go haywire. Besides that, I think Tata Steel, for that matter, is looking good. I think domestic market is picking up. The Europe story is folding now is getting better day by day. And the last earnings season, we saw good amount of margin expansion in the domestic market for Tata Steel. So I think you have to bet very selectively, and you should be ready for the high volatility in the metal stocks.
Right, so high amount of volatility that could be expected with regards to where metal names go. Moving on, Saurabh, one another sector that I want to talk to you about is the IT space. Right, a lot of red flags that were raised, post earnings as to what could be the fate there, what will happen to valuations. But since mid-April, the kind of one-way move that we've seen, I think no one's really realized how fast the IT segment has moved, though it's not at its peak yet. And the major rally has come in from the mid cap and the small cap IT players, much higher vis-a-vis the large cap IT names, right? What's your view in terms of IT as a space, number one? And how are you looking at it? And would you advise someone to look at investing at current levels?
See, if you look at the metal space, IT space as a whole, I think the way the demand is cooling off and is expected to cool down in the because of the what is happening in the US and Europe. I think large cap companies will continue to face some kind of a pressure. See, 30-35% of earnings comes from the BFSI. Everybody does know. So that is the problem area. I mean, all the companies in the US want to save amount of money. They want to protect their margin. They are sending people back. So I think for the bigger IT names, I think the business getting business would be difficult. Getting margin expansion would be difficult, and the attrition problem is getting resolved somewhat. If you look at these mid-sized companies or smaller one for that matter, I think the names which the companies stocks which we are seeing right now rising in the last few months, in the last few weeks, I think that is because of the extraordinary performance by those companies. For example, the Cyient, the nuclear software, I think it is largely because of the good amount of jump in the earnings. But generally volatility is in the operational performance also. And if you look at the valuation also, you haven't seen such kind these companies trading at such high valuation in the last 5-10 years. So be ready if you want to bet upon these companies. I think be ready for smart, sharp fall in the prices too. I think fresh buy is certainly not recommended, but if you are holding on to it, I think you may continue to hold.
Right. So if you're not holding, you may continue to hold, as well as Saurabh is mentioning in terms of where the IT names go. Moving on, you have real estate as well as a sector which is seeing some strong moves. Sobha, for that matter, is up in trade in today's session. What's your view on Sobha?
In the last earnings season, we saw, I think there was a three times fold jump in the profitability, and the pre-sales went up skyrocketing. I mean, they have I mean, they have surpassed their guidance for the last financial years. There was a jump in the
Hmm.
realization, so the market is doing pretty well. In fact, all the bigger player names, for that matter, from the Bangalore market, I think Prestige Estate is also doing good. Sobha, for that matter, is also doing good. DLF in the NCR region is also doing good. I think that the demand for the high-end properties is quite high, and the realization is also moving up. So there has been a case of margin expansion. For that matter, in the last few months, I think in the last year, real estate sector was a drag, and now I think it is catching up these days because of the performance that these companies have shown. I think one can look at this sector and the Shobha.
Right, so that's with regards to where real estate goes. Moving on, apart from that, you have a SJVN as well that is in focus in today's session. Overall, there is news around it with regards to where SJVN goes. They may be given cancellation notices for two power projects. That's one of it. Overall, what's your view? Because they've also signed a project development pact for 669 megawatt Lower Arun HEP in Nepal. So, one positive, one negative news coming in there. What's your view?
I think current capacity over around only 2000 megawatt, but it has strong commitment for further capacity expansion. I think 46 or 47,000 megawatt worth of projects are onto different stages of expansion. I think 2023 by 2024 they will have approximately 5,000 megawatt capacity. It is a very good proxy to play on the renewable energy front, and the proxy for the government focus on this area. And if you look at the profitability also jumped. On the valuation side, it is it is a value stock basically. It is a good dividend play also. So I think one must look at this stock from the long term perspective. I think it is a good play.
Right, so that's with regards to SJVN. Another sector, Saurabh, I want to discuss with you because we have time right now is FMCG. Clearly, you've seen FMCG see a good run in the month of May itself. And, I was just reading a report which has analyzed the trend over the last 11 years. And May, June, or maybe June, July as months, we've always seen a couple of these FMCG names which have really outperformed. And this has been when there are years where there has been no El Nino as well. And last 11 years, at least, we've seen that outperformance. We see that the stocks have started to outperform ITC, HUL, Godrej Consumers. Overall, what's your view on the consumption space and any topics taking valuations also into consideration?
I think if you look at this space, all the companies are not putting up the similar show. I mean, some companies are, doing extremely well. For that matter, Britannia surprised this week very positively this time around. In the last two consecutive quarters, I think they have surprised this week. Besides that, smaller company like Jyoti Laboratories, they are doing very extraordinarily well after the rejig in the management, and they are doing wonderfully in terms of scalability and all. So you have to look selectively. Apart from that, I think the cost pressures are also easing down, easing up for these companies, which are pushing up the margins also. Going forward, I think the volume growth plus the margin expansion would drive the profitability.
Right. So that's something which could drive profitability there as well. Sort of apart from the names that we've already discussed, any other topics that come to your mind taking into consideration the way markets are moving in today's session?
See, not about the today's session, but I think the sectors which one has to look upon is, I think my favorites are banking, power sector, capital goods. I think automobile. These are the four sectors which must be in your portfolio. So I think in the banking side, I expect that the major large cap banks would continue to outperform. For that matter, like ICICI Bank, Kotak Bank, and in the auto space, I think companies like Mahindra, Maruti, Eicher, they are expected to do very well. In the capital good sector, I think the Larsen Tubro, Siemens, if you get on the correction. So these are the few names which should be the part of your portfolio.
Right. So these are few names that could be a part of your portfolio as well. Thank you, Saurabh, so much for joining us on the show and sharing those views on the counters as well as the sectors that we have discussed in trade today. But overall, a slightly soft trade is what we're seeing, but there is that underlying positivity that continues to remain in terms of where markets are concerned. And it seems to be a good Friday as well. Thank you. Stay safe. Speak to you soon again, and lots more lined up on the other side. Continue to keep watching BQ Prime.